I used to have no self-confidence. I was incredibly insecure. I was crippled by fear and anxiety. Today we're going to talk about the 3 misunderstandings I had, the 3 misconceptions that most people have about confidence that keep them trapped, and how, by freeing myself from these misconceptions, I have gone from being that person to traveling the world by myself, spending 3 months of the last 2 years in other countries alone, and how I went from being so insecure that I was afraid to be in photos to uploading 60-something YouTube videos. And I'm a relatively normal guy. You can do this too. So this story starts in very early 2022, just after New Year's, and I was driving home, bawling my eyes out so hard that I could barely see where I was going. Kind of dangerous, honestly. I was driving home from my girlfriend's house, and we had been going through a rocky patch, and I had just come to the realization on this drive home that things were not going to work out. At the time, that was the last thing I had. That was the only shred of confidence, the only shred of self-esteem, was that at least I had this relationship. And I remember viscerally screaming in my car, like Corey Taylor at a Slipknot. When I got home, for the first time in my life, I really was forced to do some soul searching. I had always thought that confidence came from knowing what you were going to do, from being in control. And at this point, I was pretty much feeling the least confident, the least secure that I had ever been. So I started researching books and videos, most of which were like how to get your ex back. As I went through this process of fighting and fighting and fighting against this relationship ending, finally it sunk in that there was nothing I could do, that this was going to end, this was going to happen, and I was just going to have to let it happen. And strangely, that was the first lesson that I had to learn about confidence. The misconception that I was operating under at the time was that confidence was about power and control. In truth, confidence is your ability in yourself to deal with whatever happens. It's not your ability to control everything. It's about your ability to deal with anything. But I didn't learn that lesson just yet. A few months later, I decided that I wanted to travel the world. I had always wanted to travel the world, and I had always told myself I couldn't do it. Somebody like me, I can't travel the world by myself. I'm not gonna know what to do. I'm not gonna know how to handle it. And it was at this point that the seeds planted by that earlier lesson started to sink in. I realized that it's not about knowing what's going to happen, because you can't do that. But what you can do is trust in your own ability to deal with the situation. And this is an example of Alan Watts's backwards law, the idea that the more you try to get something, the more you push it away. In all of my attempts to feel confident, my desire to know and to control this trip, I was actually becoming very insecure, very worried. The more I tried to control, the more I felt out of control. The key was reframing that misconception. It's not about controlling, it's about knowing you can handle what happens. Confidence is born out of the ability to adapt, not to control. Your ability to be okay in different circumstances, not your ability to hold the circumstances the exact same. That's actually insecurity masquerading as confidence. And for a very long time, I had been trying to derive my confidence from control. And it turns out you can't actually control everything. If you connect your emotional well-being to things that are outside of your control, your emotional well-being will be outside of your control. And that brings us to our second lesson, which once again, I sadly did not learn the first time it became relevant in my life, but instead learned when I started this YouTube channel. So I'd gone on that first world trip. I went to Portugal and I went to Iceland, and I had recorded all of this footage, and I thought, I'm gonna make these amazing YouTube videos, and I had painstakingly edited them. I was terrified to upload them. I remember sitting at my computer late at night, like staring at the screen, hovering over the upload button, and just not clicking it because I felt so insecure. And that inner insecurity voice was saying, who do you think you are, man? Like, what are you doing? This is a terrible idea. They're gonna see you. They're gonna know how much of a fraud you are. They're gonna see how insecure and what a loser you are. You can't let them see that stuff. The realization that finally gave me the confidence to upload that video came from knowing that I was going to grow no matter what. That simply clicking upload was the important step, and that it didn't actually matter what the response was. The second misconception is that being confident is based on playing the game super well, by beating other people, by doing well and getting validation. True self-confidence is based in playing your own game and being okay with that. I was attaching my emotional well-being to something that was innately out of my control. There's a great quote in the book Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. He was a Roman emperor. Even as the emperor of Rome, he struggled with this. What he said is, look at who they really are, the people whose approval you long for, and look at what their minds are really like. We tend to blindly seek the approval of people. Succeeding in the eyes of others, the eyes of society, the eyes of your parents, is the thing that matters. This is why we have so many control issues, so much conflict, because everybody is trying to boost their own ego, boost their own sense of confidence by their ability to control. I conditionalized my success upon a video doing well, rather than pride in the skills I had to develop to make it in the first place. Just the fact that I did it was inherently an achievement. But conditionally, I said, no, everybody else has to recognize this as an achievement for it to count. Decide for yourself that you win by trying, that you succeed by effort and growth, not when other people say, hey, you're doing great. That's just what they think. Remember Marcus Aurelius? Who are they? What are their minds really like? We blindly crave their approval, but really, does it even matter? And believe me, throughout all of the years of feeling bad about myself, feeling insecure, feeling no confidence whatsoever, being terrified to talk to girls, to try hard things, to practically do anything, I was extremely skeptical of people who said, oh, you know, it's just your perspective, or you need to change this thing, or this is what it seemed like such garbage. But luckily for me, perhaps, after the ending of this relationship, I was so desperate, I was so heartbroken, I was so empty that for a while I thought, you know, fuck it, I'll try anything. So imagine my surprise when, like, a month after this breakup, I'm laying on my bedroom floor. It was like 1 in the morning, and I'm doing this inner child healing exercise, this meditation, and I am bawling my freaking eyes out. I am completely overwhelmed, and for the first time, I have seen the truth. This is probably the most damaging misconception that most people have about confidence, and it's that if we're able to control the way everybody else looks at us, we'll be able to control the way we feel about us. But the truth is actually the opposite. All that time I spent trying to do everything right and make everybody happy, I was conflict avoidant. Even at the end of this relationship, I was like the super nice guy, people pleaser, do everything right, perfect boyfriend, and that ended up ruining the relationship. Here I was laying on my bedroom floor at like 1 in the morning, crying my eyes out, and I finally understood the root cause behind all of my fears and insecurities, all of my doubts, all of my people-pleasing tendencies, all of my crippling unconfidence. I fundamentally had been rejecting myself the entire time. I had spent all of my time and energy trying to maintain the fragile ego image. The little bit of confidence I did have was based on glowing reviews of other people. Oh, they like me. Oh, it's great. Oh, I succeeded. I got that one right. I knew how to control this situation, plus 1 point for Andrew's ego. That was my entire experience of confidence up to this point. But here's the truth. Remember that backwards law? The more you want somebody else's approval, the more you chase people's approval, the more you're subtly telling yourself that your own approval doesn't matter. By chasing everybody else's validation, I was telling myself that my own validation didn't matter. I was sabotaging my own inner peace. By endlessly trying to control everything, I was reinforcing within myself the belief that I couldn't cope with things. And crucially, by endlessly striving to be more confident, more secure, and never get abandoned, I was becoming insecure, unconfident, and abandoning myself in favor of the approval and validation of other people. You don't have to build confidence. Confidence is natural. You have to remove the obstacles that you and probably other people have placed in your head that are obstructing the confidence that is naturally your birthright. don't get caught in the misconceptions. Don't waste your time and energy and your life trying to polish up the fragile ego self. For me, this journey did take a lot of reading, a lot of watching videos, a lot of learning, and a lot of inner work. Specifically, inner child work was very transformative for me on that last part where I mentioned bawling my eyes out on the floor. I do have a video about that topic right here, one of my most popular videos. People have really liked it and said it's been very helpful. So if you're curious about that, check that out next. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.